morning, everyone. This is Moksh. I'm leading artist relations at Madverse. I'm joined here by everyone, Sarthak, Royden, and Aranyika. And I am the moderator. I think they announced Royden as the moderator for some reason. But yeah. So yeah, we have some brilliant minds with me, and we'll talk about, how to build communities for artists from studio to stage. And yeah, I think I'll start the conversation by the first question, and I'll ask these guys, how are they doing, first of all?
It's damn early in the morning, so good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm good too.
Good.
Excited
Yeah?
to start talking.
Yeah. So yeah, I think jump right into it and introduce the topic. So basically, we'll discuss about like what's the importance of communities, what are the merits of having a community, and how to approach community building by the team and the artist both. So yeah, the first question would be, what do you think a community is for an artist? And I think from a perspective of both, like a team as well and the artist as well. As Aranika does artist management, Rodden has also worked with artists, even you have. So it'll be nice to know what a community is and what do you think about it.
Okay. So a community is basically you fostering a relationship with like-minded people who like your art. So it could be music, it could be any field that you're from. These are people who feed off your energy and give back to you. So from an artist perspective, a community is finding the right people that would kind of feed off your art and give it back to you. And from an artist management perspective, it is to find to help your artist to kind of find these fans that kind of take you from the studio to the stage later on.
Got it. Nice. What do you think, Sarthak?
Thanks, Rodin. I think for me, community is a very essential word which defines that it's, like you said, people which share values and sort of people who kind of belong to the kind of art that you're putting out over there, right? It's from, if you look at an artist journey, early on, there'll be some sort of patrons that you will develop who will give you feedback about what you're doing, who will start loving your art and who will start sharing your art. Be it any art form, music, or being a creator, or like we're discussing today, multifaceted sort of people who are in the creative industries. It's basically that shared sense of value and belongingness that you provide to people who appreciate your art and who appreciate the creative process. As an artist grows, the community sort of builds and develops with you, and it's very essential for an artist to work on these communities and kind of work closely with them over the period of time.
Thanks, Sarthak. What do you think, Aranyika?
Just piggybacking off of what Sarthak said, I think a community is a group of people that buy into you because they have a shared value system with you and with each other. They're also the first consumers of your art. They're always excited about it. They relate to it beyond just, oh, this is a song I'm listening to, right? And they're turning up in that space to interact with each other as well. From the team's perspective, obviously your community is the first point of monetization and how to make money, right?
Yeah.
And yes, it's fostering positive spaces, and that's how you make the money, but it's really about, getting those fans in and getting your community with the shared value system to actually keep engaging with you and then also spend their money on you.
Got it. So as the topic also says, right, from studio to stage, and so how does a community function in a studio level, and how does it get to the stage, and how does that relationship circle back? So it's connected from a studio to the stage. What I mean to ask is, okay, an artist makes music, distributes it, puts it out, markets it, everything, and then they get a show at like a festival, or maybe they get a gig. But how do these communities come together, and how do they interact? So the artist reaches from the studio to the stage. That's a question I'd like to ask. Maybe Royden can take this up because he's,
Yeah. So I mean, it all starts off with when the artist is just starting out making music, right? You're making music in your bedroom. You don't know what the outcome is going to be, what the reaction is going to be. So you first start putting out your music irrespective of how many fans you have. So you've actually started the process of building a community there, and then after that you will get reactions. That's a very important part of the community, that you actually get reactions for you to kind of understand where your music is headed, or what are the topics that your fans are liking. You could feed off from them to understand of what kind of topics that they love. You could write more about that. And obviously, from a stage point of view, there are different levels of building a community. Like Sarthak and Aranyaka also mentioned, you start off from the studio, and then you move to the stage. What we mean to say by that is, it's a journey, it's a process. You start off right from the start, and then you will see different levels. So you'll see like monetization will happen like much later in the day, when it comes to merchandise, when it comes to workshops and your events, and things like that. And obviously that will then translate into an artist, getting a chance to play like at a bigger festival, or like at a bigger, IP, or an event, where at that level the artist has already reached that stage where they can monetize and help a promoter to sell enough number of tickets. So it's a journey that starts right from the start, when an artist is making music in the bedroom, to playing a big stage festival at some point.
Got it. What do you think, Aranyaka? Like, as an artist manager, obviously you're working with artists, seeing the studio sessions, making sure they're getting the best deals for their music. But how can you take them by putting them out there, putting the music out, and then taking to the stage? Like, what partners do you think you need to work with? Or how do they transition from that whole studio setup to the stage setup?
I think there's multiple parts of that journey. One is, of course, you put your music out, your people are interacting with you, and I think it's important to remember that it's going to be a step-by-step journey. Once you put your music out, even if you've got, say, you're an overnight sensation, you get a viral song, that doesn't necessarily mean that those people are turning up to your live show, because till then they haven't seen one. So you've got to start, AP Dillon being an exception, obviously. But you got to start building off of, say you've got 50 followers on your socials, you get 10 of them to come in. You start showcasing what your skill looks like, what your live experience is going to look like, what are you going to stand for, and people start coming up for your live shows, and that's how you start building scale, right? Not everyone's going to have an overnight hit. And that's how you start monetizing your community as well.
Got it. Nice one. What do you think, Sarthak?
I think, not at the risk of repeating myself, but the first instance of when we say studio, right? The first instant of an artist's life, or when he starts, and that first share, the first ticket sale, or the first like that you get, it really means something to the artist, right? And as they say, it starts from your inner circles, your friends and your family, kind of first resonating with what you put out and what you create. Those, I believe, are your first fan bases. And then when we, as an artist, kind of progresses in his life cycle and his journey, right? Basically, I believe that not every artist has the resources or that network or a close network to kind of understand what they're putting out is resonating or working in the market, right? This is where your first fan base or your first loyalists come into play, where they will give you feedback either via a DM or either via any way they can reach out to you. And you build and grow your career and your journey on that, right? Basically, as an example, right? When we were working at Sony Music, there was this very young artist called Henry Moody, based out of Germany. And he started as a singer-songwriter in a music cafe, and basically got a feedback from those people sitting in the cafe that, hey, why don't you pursue this thing? Because your voice suits something, we like it. That is how his journey started. Basically, he was a guy with a guitar and an amplifier going to multiple cafes in Germany and just singing and building that loyal fan base from those coffee shops, and then growing from there. And now today, if you see, he's a multi-million streaming artist on Spotify, kind of doing world tours and stuff like that. But I believe the journey starts from where you kind of start gathering storm about what you're going to do in your life.
Yeah, this circles me back to that question where you work with Sony Music, and you're also, the country head for Creative Music now. You're managing Alan Walker. So that guy is already famous, right? Has an audience. But how does an indie artist or an artist just starting out identify his community? How, maybe since you worked at Sony, you know so much about data, and like you have this huge database of fans across various artists. So how do you use that data? How do you make sure that an artist gets from those 10 streams to those 10 million streams also? That is an important question to ask. And how does the community support them get there? Yeah?
Correct. And I think you've asked a very right question that kind of looms over every artist manager, every artist in the country today. There is so much of unprocessed raw data that everyone's getting fed via platforms such as Spotify, Apple, which are distributing your music, or platforms such as Skillbox and Madverse, which are also kind of helping in either ticket sales or overall publishing and distribution. But how does an artist whose basic job is to just create music and be the creative person kind of make use of that data? I think it really helps the manager or the artist to understand that what is that trigger point in the art that we are creating, or what is that one thing in my music that's sticking with someone. Like again, let's take an example of Anuv Jain, who's just been selling, like, the Guldasta tour was like a sold out tour for an indie artist and a single artist, independent artist. I think what really resonates with his art is that he's got the nerve of what he's talking about that really resonates with today's Gen Z. It's basically me kind of looking into the mirror and kind of reflecting that this is my part, life and journey. And when we were at Sony Music, obviously major labels, so we had a proprietary software that used to give us data to the I would say even beyond a tertiary level, where we were able to identify when we launched a track with Doja Cat that there was this particular cohort, the queer cohort, that was resonating with her music at first on launching. And that kind of gave us an insight that when we went to campaign planning on Reels or kind of working with creators, is that was the biggest insight that, hey, rather than going for a lifestyle or a dance creator, let's go with the makeup community and the queer community that's most resonating. So these small insights and data help you overall in campaign planning, deciding the most basic things like demographics will help you in kind of deciding the cities or territories that you should target first.
Got it. What do you think, Ranika?
In terms of finding data, I think the first data point should be where are your fans and what age group are your fans lying in. Not everyone's going to hit Gen Z first, right? And then the second thing is identifying ancillary communities that your fans buy into. For example, when I was working on Sab Chahiye with Rahul and Bharg, and we made the video for Jungli Kutta, all four of the artists who were on the song were Manchester United fans. So it was a natural fit that, hey, we stand as Manchester United fans. We want the color scheme of this video to be red and black and white. And so they turned up wearing Manchester United jerseys. And that was an immediate touch point with their community, saying there were a lot of comments that we were getting. There were Manchester United fan pages that then were sharing, right? That automatically helps you gain access to other communities and then draw them into your own, right? And I feel like it's these touch points, like the makeup example that you gave, the makeup artist example that you gave, the Manchester United example. It is finding that value system that can draw other people who may already have bought into other interests and get them into your community and then start listening to your music and then start buying into you as a personality.
Got it. Thoughts, Rodden?
So, I mean, two examples here. One is from a music perspective. So, like, we manage artists like Parvaz, Parik and Singh, Raman Negi at Level House, at Skillbox right now. So, obviously, we get a lot of data when it comes to where the fans are streaming the music from, which then helps us to kind of figure out markets from when we are planning a tour for our artists. So we are actually, and then we put out polls, and like we are actually feeding off a lot of the energy from the fans that are basically there. Then we do merchandise based on that. So that is one example, and I want to give a slightly different example because not only music people, there are a lot of creators also in the room right now. So back in the days when I used to work with an artist at Sony Music called Rob, right? Everybody knows him from the TV days of Mad and Pogo. He was a kid's icon, back in the days. But here is a day when he said that, I want to move to YouTube. Now that's a very, very different example because he has a massive fan base, but that's television. And YouTube is a different ballgame, like all of us know, right? So how we kind of took an artist that already had a fan base on television and translated it onto digital was a story to tell in itself. Because when we started the YouTube channel, and which was called Mad Stuff with Rob, we thought, man, that's going to blow out on the internet. But nobody showed up, because nobody had discovered. Discovery is very different when it comes to YouTube. Slowly, we started putting content that he used to put on television, and we realized that it's not getting the same traction. People are not reacting to it the way we thought, they would on a normal day. And then we realized that his fans have actually grown up. So, when we started putting out content which was more pop culture and room decor and like things that we love, which are very Instagrammable, superhero stuff and things like that, automatically we saw the traction increase. And then we saw comments like, we found you back again, like, oh, Rob never ages, and things like that. And that's how, from like, we literally started from zero and we went to 2 million in like less than 6 months. So like, that is the kind of a community that an artist can actually command. Even it does not mean that a community needs to start from scratch. You can start from scratch, but you might be a TV star today, but you're actually starting from scratch. And we successfully translated that, because we built a community on on YouTube, that translated to getting Rob out of the kids icon and becoming a youth icon at some point in time. We put him on events like Global Citizen, where Coldplay, we started doing installations for music festivals, and we kind of grew that community and took him, right from where he was, to kind of grow up in that whole space and command a bigger community. So it really depends on, what your vision as an artist is, and what you want to, do from a community standpoint. And then you kind of, put everything together.
That's interesting though, because that explains how dynamic and observant you need to be when you're developing a community. Like, I think an artist can't dictate the community they want to make. The community tells the artist to make that community.
That's
Do you think that is the narrative, or do you think you can strategically design a community using data? So, anyone can take this up.
I mean, it is obviously strategic. It's not a one-way process. It is a two-way process. The artist knows the art that they're making. We're not, at any point of time, we're not saying on this panel right now that, it is that you have to tell from a fan's perspective that they are commanding your art. It's a two-way process. You're making your art. You're putting it in front of the world. It depends on how they react to it. You're getting actual feelers and reactions from them. You improve your art, or you stay you stay where you are. You might have 300 fans, or you might have 3 million fans. That depends on what you want at the end of the day.
Sarthak?
Yeah. I think from the overall perspective, to kind of put it out there, the fan base is an extension of your personality, right? And as you will grow with your art, your fan bases will also evolve. Your communities will evolve with you. And like I said earlier, the main objective is to, how do you provide that feeling of belongingness? How do you create shared values with your fans, so that as they are evolving in their age, or as they are kind of progressing in their careers, you can work, you can kind of add value. And like, I think the beautiful example is of Rob, but also brings me to the fact that currently I'm managing Alan Walker, right? And it's been just 3 months, but I was working with him for 3 years at Sony Music. And the overall, if I have to sum it in one line in terms of what Alan Walker, how did he build and how kind of he became such a global star, was just on the base of community, which we called Walkers. So 2015, 10 years ago from now, he was a bedroom producer going by the name of DJ Vox. And kind of, that's when he put out Faded, right? Like the biggest hit that he's ever given. And that particular instance is when he started building that community of bedroom producers, and collaborated with NCS, which is basically a YouTube channel that gives you non-copyright songs to use for your vlogs and stuff like that. That is how Faded became a hit. And that was the first community that became his fan. Basically vloggers and bedroom producers who started using that thing. And today, if we see, we have, I think, overall more than 80 million walkers as a fan base across the globe. And India, being the biggest market, contributes to 20-25% of that. And that's overall. The other fan base from there, how we progressed, was kind of targeting the gaming community, because he himself is a big gamer, and during his streams, the conversations used to be a lot about the music that people were streaming while playing games, or the music that helped them kind of focus or energize while they were kind of, doing their art. And that's how we build, which is the biggest community that we work with today, which is the gaming community. We run a Discord channel which is 200,000 people today. And again, like, these are all kids sitting out of their homes who are gamers, bedroom producers. And as just an instance, we run this program where every quarter we select 10 kind of producers from across the globe, and Alan personally gives them sort of training and speaks to them to how to become an artist, right? And that is his way of giving back to the community. And again, this is another very important piece while building a community is how, like Royden mentioned, it's a two-way street. How do you give back to your community timely? How do they feel empowered and connected with you as, again, that you progress on your journey?
So it's like important to involve the community as well. Like you can't just tell them what you're trying to do. You have to involve them in the artistic journey, basically the whole process. Even it could be making music. They could act like, as Royden mentioned, as a soundboard for you to make sure that you're making the right type of music that they like. Or maybe you want to do a live performance, or how Pratik did with Kasoor, right? Like he got everyone on the video, and then everyone talked about what they were feeling and everything. So they also get a stage to express their opinion with you. I think that's a good point. And what's your experience been, Aranyaka, with like Bharg Raga and developing their communities? Do they dictate how the community will function, or does the artist take the lead on that?
I agree with both of them that it's a two-way street, right? You put some content out there, whether it's your music or any other content piece to buy in your community, and you can instantly see both quantitatively what the engagement is and qualitatively. And you have to be very clear in every time you're reading all of the data you're getting, both qualitative and quantitative, as to what my aim was when I put this out as an artist, or what the team's aim was when we put this out as an artist, and what is the feedback that we're getting. Is it hitting those aims, or has this completely not landed anywhere? Why I'm saying that you have to start deciphering between the numbers and what's happening qualitatively is PCRC is a great example of this. If you look at their streaming numbers, you'll be underwhelmed. However, they're selling out shows across the globe right now, and that's their community. Their forte is their live show. There are few bands that come close. Now, they've learned that this is where I should function, and they have aced where they should function. Yeah. But that is obviously based on feedback that they're directly getting. What the greatest bit of the times that we're living in today is that feedback is right there. All your data is right there. The qualitative feedback is right there. You just have to learn to parse through it and also dissociate yourself from the emotions that you have about what you're putting out there, right? And then work with your community to build something. And that also means that if you want to experiment, you're in a position to bring them with you and have them be a part of that growth journey. Because if your messaging has always been open to your community, then they will be receptive to you making changes to your art as well. And that's something that I've seen with Bharg, for example. He came on the scene as a producer. Today he's a successful solo artist. And that journey has been making sure that we're drawing people into the various aspects of his creativity. Yeah. Versus just saying, hey, yesterday I was a producer, today I'm an artist, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. Yeah. That's not how we've operated.
Got it.
I just want to say that today instant feedback is a positive and sometimes a negative also. Yeah. Like a lot of artists might get instant feedback while they're not ready for it, and kind of demotivates them also to some level. So it all depends on how you take feedback. It could be positive, it could be negative. You need to be open to all, basically.
Yeah, I think a point I'd like to touch upon is so Madverse has made it really easy for artists to put out music, access a community, and all of these things. So once an artist puts out music, as we talked about how to identify community, right? They get all that data of say how Apple is performing, Spotify, JioSaavn, all of these things are performing. So they come there, maybe they check that out. That अच्छा यार Spotify पे गाना चल रहा है या फिर Apple पे चल रहा है. अब now do you think that's a good starting point for an artist to accessing their community, because this qualitative data you'll only get when you say perform live, or maybe you put out a poll on your Instagram or something like that. And how important is the marriage between them? Like Aranyaka mentioned, and we worked together on the Nikamma campaign. I think that was one of our goals, right? To make sure that the quantitative data is in place, but then we are also making sure that the interests of Bharg's communities are aligned with the album that we're putting out. So we can place it in the right sense. So how does that data and that quantitative and qualitative data work in a studio setting, in a marketing setting, and in an artistic setting? That's the question from me to you guys.
I think I just like to remind everyone over here, music is still an emotion, right? we managers and marketing people sitting over here will try to make it as scientific and as kind of glorify that, hey, everything is based on data. But eventually, it's the emotion that the music evokes, right? I mean, there have been instances where we've seen artists clocking multi-million numbers on streams, right? And this is when I was working at Zomato. We were kind of doing this festival, Zomaland, and I think I have Raj over here. Raj and I used to work on the artist team, and and even Ayush, we used to always kind of like battle on the fact that, hey, data shows something, but the tickets are not selling, right? It is eventually, sometimes people will consume your music, they will consume your art, but depending on where you are in your artist journey, or what it, again, coming to the fact, what is that value that you're adding in terms of someone coming and attending your gig overall? Is it a new discovery? Is it kind of belongingness to a particular community that has not been kind of exposed or introduced in the market yet? Really matters. And we've seen examples where the artist has 10 million followers and there are a lot of engagement on his post, but merely 1,000 people have showed up for the gig, like in the sense.
Yeah,
And
I've
then,
seen words.
yeah, and if you look at, again, amazing the power of data analytics and reach with how Spotify has literally stormed the market in 3 years. I think I in my life have never discovered so many indie artists and undiscovered talent who are, again, like, I mean, for example, Mitras, Talvinder, Shrushti. There's so many artists who've literally broken off of one song, and just because they had the right tools, the right team, and the right kind of data available with them has helped them reach to the consumer. You're not shooting darts in the dark anymore. If you know that you have the right resources, you know the direction. So data helps you in direction, but eventually you have to have a quality product to kind of, build, grow as an artist.
Jordan, how does it help in the live
Yeah, so
setting?
so the thing is, I mean, again, taking from what Sarthak said, is like we get a lot of emails and messages saying we want to perform at Bloomverse Festival, Livebox Festival, all of our IPs that happen, right? I think important for artists to know that we are also running a business, right? So it's a two-way process again, that it also depends on what, again, leading back to communities, what is the community that you have built, what is the fan base that you have, and how many tickets can you sell? I mean, it's as point blank as that, right? Obviously, in our journeys, when we build IPs, we obviously give chances to a lot of new and upcoming artists to perform. We've done the first shows with Pina Colada Blues at Livebox, where we, just gave a platform and we said that, okay, fine, my headliner Pliny is going to sell the tickets. Now, what do I do to curate the experience? So that is one important aspect. I feel that artists should understand that. Build your community, and then you need to get that journey going from the studio to stage. I think a classic example and is, like Ananyaka also mentioned, PCRC, right? Like if you look at the Instagram numbers, like we work with so many brands. When we present artists to brands, we have brands come back to us and say, oh, not F16s, not PCRC, why don't we do XYZ, artists who has 3 million, followers on Instagram. But when you actually see the conversion, like PCRC can fill a room of 2,000 people, straight up today. They're doing in US, Australia tours. So it is not only numbers, right? Yes, numbers are important, but it might be just, 20,000 people on their page, but those 20,000 people are feeding off the art that they are making, which is reaching and global, which is reaching globally for them. Today they're doing tours all over the world, and that is basically a fan base that has been set, that they have been able to build over the years. Whereas you have artists that have 3 million, 4 million, 20 million followers, but might not be able to sell 300 tickets. So that is from a live perspective. From a studio perspective, I think Aranyaka obviously will be able to
Yeah.
fill in a little bit more.
Just to add to that point, I think for me, the most engaged community, if you ask me, is the heavy metal and metal community.
They are the
They are
best.
literally 20,000 followers, and they will kind of drag two more friends. There'll be 30,000 people for your gig. Each and everyone attends, and they're so loyal to that artist.
The metal
Everyone will come in
community
black
is the
t-shirts.
most loyal community in the world. They will fly across to watch artists. They will buy their merch. So yeah, I mean, 100%.
And fun fact, Royden is a big metalhead, but he was the head of kids department in Sony Music.
You got to do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also I would like to remind both of them that the metal community is significantly older and just has a lot more money to spend than someone who's, say, I work in hip hop. It is such a hard community to monetize because everyone's a kid. So you're catering to people who are like 18 to 24, and If I give a free RSVP, I can fill up 1,000 people. I add a 500 rupee cover charge on a 200 rupee ticket, and my sales would drop to like 5. You know, it's just different communities have different purchase parity and also a different value system that they engage with. Having said that, the hip hop community is so engaged online. There was a point in time where you see all of the big numbers, but in terms of engagement on streaming, I think it was 6 times more engaged than all of the other genres, right? When it comes to that, really should inform what you're doing in studio as well. You always want to make music that's ahead of the curve, right? But you have to be consuming content from these various communities and having it inform your art. See what different communities you can engage within your art as well. Like when we're making music with Bharg, or even when it was Raval X Bharg, it's genre fluid music rooted in hip hop. Right, so the songwriting is very much rooted in hip hop, but it appeals to a larger audience than just the hip hop community or just the indie community, because it borrows sonically from both communities.
Yeah. सही. तो पैसे की बात हो ही गई है. तो one important question that I want to ask is, when do you monetize this community? Because see, community will help you grow and everything, but you need to make money off of them also, right? So when's a good time to invest in this community that you've built, and when do you start monetizing, and how do you start monetizing this community?
So, I mean, I think all of us have said this, that it's a two-way process, right? You start, like you initially when you start, you're actually building a community or building a fan base. So at that point of time, you're not able to monetize directly, but it's almost like you're building an army, right? You're building an army of fans that will at some point of time give you those returns. So you start off by making your music, and you've kind of feeding off the energy of that, and then after that, at some point of time, you will realize that okay, I have avid fans in these markets, be it from my music perspective or be it from my live perspective. And that kind of is the time for you to, start testing the waters when it comes to doing these exclusive fan packages or, meet and greets and, things like that. It might start off with maybe 20 people, 30 people, but that is how you gradually grow. And I feel like consistency is the key here, because if you're not consistent in, doing this activity with your fans, and if you do it like once and then after 6 months, I know like a lot of artists in the room will be like, I don't like social media, like why is my manager telling me to do 1 post a day, right? But that is important, because you're actually getting to know real-time feedback from your fans. And monetization from a live perspective is a different thing, is because once you build that community and you have those fans, like Sarthak said, it's drastically different for conversion when it comes to streams to ticket sales. A ticket selling artist, that means a fan is buying a ticket, leaving their home, traveling and going to an event and spending money on a ticket, spending money on F&B. That means you really love that artist, right? I mean, like, so that's, and we've seen a lot of artists, not live up to their streaming numbers, not only in India, but when we bring down international acts also, they might look very rosy on paper, on, all your data metric websites, but when it translates to ticket sales, you don't see that outcome. And yeah, so I mean, like it's a process that starts. You monetize at a level when you believe in those number of people that you've built, and they have actually built right from the start, from your journey till now, where you feel that you can feed off and make money out of them, like we are.
Got it. So how does the Skillbox programs artists and books them and all of these things, but what is a good metric for you to go by when you're booking an artist?
Sell tickets.
Sell tickets. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and also, like, we want to tell artists that when you we work with a number of brands, so we do like more than 150 shows for brands in the year, right? So we program a lot of artists, we get a lot of quotes, so and we are also a data platform. So when you quote your figures to us, understand that we are sitting on the data of the number of tickets you already sold. So that is one part. And if you're a new and upcoming artist, yes, definitely approach us, because I'll give you a classic example. I think we did the first Raval and Bharg tour, right? When they were actually in that stage of building a community. We did the first Hanuman Kind tour. Hanuman Kind didn't even know he had fans in Delhi, right? We are willing to explore, we are willing to experiment. Having said that, you have to also have a certain amount of community that you have built, right? I mean, one of the rising stars, Anuj, and that will be spoken in the next 2 days, like maybe 10, 12 times in panels. It's a classic example of how an artist with a guitar basically started during lockdown and how his management was able to foster that relationship with fans. And in fact, Skillbox did the first tour with Anuj Jain when he ever got out of the studio or his house during the lockdown in Bangalore. He didn't know he had 500 people who came to watch him because he thought that my numbers are on streaming and my fans are watching me on Instagram live. But when it translated to live, and today we all know where he is.
Sarthak?
I think I'll just take a step back in terms of what we've been speaking. And if you look at the trajectory of growth of a community, right, there's, like I said, your first followers or fans will be your friends and family. Then you'll build to a community, eventually to a fan base, a super fan base, and then what we call a cult, right? Basically, a Taylor Swift has a cult today in that sense. So it also resonates with the fact that what the artist is trying to do in that sense. Like, again, taking an example of a metal community, which is not so heavily streamed or supported by a platform or a brand, but literally the band survive on merchandise sales and ticket sales, and the community supports that overall, right? And it's a close-knit community, but the community supports that. As opposed to if you look at a pop star today, which the overall objective is to kind of be a global star, be on Billboard charts, be it on the covers of, sort of all sorts of magazines. The whole idea is to kind of connect different worlds and different geographies via music, which is something, again, coming back to the piece of art. Once you do that, you're building a loyal fan base, which in data, again, if you look at Spotify, the Spotify kind of breaks down your fan into fans, your periphery fans, and your super fans. Your super fans then start feeling that they belong to a community where they can share interests with other members of the community, right? It's basically growing together, learning from each other, kind of sharing your stories. Again, very simple example. The biggest fan in India of Alan Walker is this guy called Wolfsan. And we have this very unique identity that once you sort of want to become a super fan, you go to our website called walkerworld.com. You get a unique identity, which is your Walker tag. It's a Walker tag. Like, it's my Walker ID is Walker #70456, something like that. The first Indian Walker whose ID was 444 has been with us for 8 years. The guy lost his dad during COVID, and he is in a very small village in Rajasthan, right? He did not have that support or that mental or that community support to kind of bring him up. He literally, we have a documentary that we are working on him. His literal support was the Walker community, which was way away, sitting in Oslo, in Singapore, in US in that sense. But he still talks about the fact that how Walkers, the community that he had fostered over the 7 years, helped him come out of that state of mind and kind of grow. And he's a brilliant kid. He's 24 right now. He works on all our fan art. We've put out literally a lyric video that he's created on Alan's channel, which is 46 million subscribers. So giving back the power to the fan that, hey, you've been so engaged, you know more than us about the artist, because I mean, literally, trust me, some fans are crazy in that sense. They will literally go to any extent to understand or just deep dive into what the artist is doing. And connecting this back to the point of monetization, again, see, it's either monetary value, which Royden mentioned, is merchandise, ticket sales, fan passes or fan packages, meet and greet packages. But there's value, inherent value, much beyond the monetary value, which will come from this. This is the group of people who will basically support any cause that you're supporting in that sense, right? Like, I mean, if you look at One Direction, they support a cause. Their fans, literally during the time of COVID, raised almost $2 million for a COVID kind of relief thing. And it was just the power of fans that put in so much money to kind of, sort of support the cause that the artist was doing. So value is either monetary or also a lot of psychological value that the fan can add to an artist.
Interesting. Ranika.
So I can talk about monetization of the community very early on. I think artists should choose to do it when they know that they can break even in their efforts, right? It's really simple. For example, when we did the Sab Chahiye merch, we decided that we've sold an X number of tickets in each of the tour cities that we've done, which means a percentage of these people, of the tickets that we've sold, will be able to buy merch as well, right? Because as these guys said, there's always your regular fan who's going to show up to a gig, then there's your super fan who wants to stan you everywhere. And those are obviously going to be more limited in number. Now you then just assess the cost of putting together such an activity. Hey, I want to put out merch, it costs me an X amount of money, I'm going to make a Y amount of money. Is my aim initially to make a lot of profit on it? Or do I see this as a tool to market myself further and just break even? So in our case, we were like, we want to make just enough profit so that it covers all of our costs and the opportunity cost of doing this activity. And then we saw the Subjay t-shirts everywhere to the point that once people were sure of the quality that we were providing in that wearable, they asked for more and we were able to do a second run, right? But it was all calculated to break even. And that's when artists should start monetizing their art. They should, as he said, you need to assess the qualitative impact of what you're doing, and quantitatively, don't put yourself in the red, right? Don't ever be in a situation where you have to quit making your art because you took a one bad business decision. Your monetization can happen in a smart manner, and it can start as early as you wanted if you're able to break even.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway. So yeah, I think we're almost nearing the end of this panel. And the last question I'd like to ask is, so I did a campaign with Blue Tokai Coffee Roasters. We were placing Indian independent music at their cafes. What we realized was all these coffee lovers, they loved indie music. They love going into the niche and, just being themselves and all these things. And what it resulted was discovery of new Indian artists, the stream bumps and Shazam bumps. So we realized that, okay, you can combine an interest with another interest, which is say interest for music and then interest for coffee, combine them together and grow that community together. Something like a Zomaland also. So just an example from all of you where you have done this, or maybe you've seen this, and then a closing statement on just like how to build a community, and then we get to Q&As.
I mean, I don't have a direct example, but definitely there is a lot of scope when it comes to fostering communities that feed off each other. I can speak more from a ticketing perspective, obviously, because we've seen the rise of alcohol and music festivals. We've seen the rise of food and music. We've seen the rise of comedy and music. So music is a part now. In some festivals, it's a music festival. In some festivals, like, for example, Gin Explorers Club, where basically it's the gin brands that are driving that festival, and the artists are actually a subset of that festival. They're not the main highlight. So you'll have smaller artists or DJs performing, at those festivals. But what is brilliant to see is there is that graph that is coming together, which is merging these two communities. A person who loves music also loves alcohol. A person who loves alcohol also loves music. So you're basically looking at combining these fans together and putting an experience for them. Zomaland is another great example where people go to listen to music big artists and great artists, and also eat momos. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, well said. Go ahead,
I
Saad.
think, yeah, it was the other way around. People who used to love to music, who used to go to music festivals, didn't find always if you see in a music festival, the core is music, but there's not a great curation of food or a lot of bars. So we started, okay, this is the best of both worlds in that sense. But I couldn't agree more to, Royd in that sense. And I believe music is, or always has been, an integral part. It's basically the marquee, the tent pole of everything around it. Yeah. Today, you tell me one industry that's not interacting or does not want to interact with a music or a music artist, be it fashion, like at Levi's, what they did with Lollapalooza, be it obviously alco brands, because it's like surrogate advertisement for them. But even if you look at offbeat brands today, look at Cult, right? Cult has this whole Zumba program, or they have this whole kind of, one session which is by trained artists and musicians where they're playing music. And this is very common in the techno genre of music as well. I'm a loyalist of techno music. So, but there has been a rise in basically jewelry, wearable jewelry for both unisex jewelry and techno brands. So there's this brand based out of Barcelona called Hex Barcelona, which has now become one of the biggest labels and kind of, sort of organizers of live events and parties in techno space. They found such a great extension. They have an extension which is just hex jewelry. And in every party of theirs, you will see people kind of like, donning that thing. And that is the way how they've monetized their community into kind of like paying for them. And these pieces are not cheap. They're for $200, $300, literally just rings. It's just that that is that one exclusive thing that they've created for their community that people want to resonate with them. But also to the point that the example that you were asking me, I think something that recently what the team behind King has done, and shout out to Blueprint over here, has done with him, right? Like they've literally built the biggest pop star of the decade. And I was speaking to Shweta, the basic insight that they have was that when King was starting, right? And because, again, he's an independent artist, you do not have the leverage of intricate data details to understand what are the kind of audiences that are resonating with you. He literally, back in the days, put out a form that was filled by his 1,000 followers to understand what resonates more with them and what is the brand extension, right? And this is where co-creation with the community comes into play. He kind of understood what is the best brand extension for my fan bases, and from whatever study that they did, it came out to be that fragrances or kind of like, sort of elevating your lifestyle, elevating your look is something that really resonates with them, and that is why my people are listening to my music. And this is when the idea of Blanco, which is the perfume range by him, came into creation. And literally on the drop, they were, I think, sold out for almost 3 months. And that's the insights, again, that your community will provide to you, that you can build on.
I've already spoken about the Manchester United example, and we're out of time, so I'm going to keep it really short. I think one thing that we haven't discussed in this panel so far is using visual media as a way to access your community. And two communities that in this country especially have been intertwined forever have been movies and music. And they feed each other all the time. We love Bollywood in this country. We love Bollywood music in this country. It is finally changing, and for the better for all of us on this panel. But if you look at things like Sync, right? You take the example of Running Up the Hill by Kate Bush. That song was from the 80s. It went into Stranger Things. It blew up and increased in sales for the song and for the artist. But it also meant that there was so much culture marketing that Stranger Things was able to do on social media because they had this one thing blowing up. They had memes all over the place for a good 3-4 months, and it went viral globally. So I think two communities that definitely feed each other are visual media and music.
Got you. Thank you. So yeah, this has been a session. I hope everyone took something away from it. I think we should do a quick 2-minute Q&A. If anyone has some questions for the panel or anyone here, if anyone has questions, they can raise their hands.
Can we give a mic to...
Yeah.
It's a big shout out to everyone who's come so early today. Thank you.
And also to
Rise.
to Ayush, to Ishita, and everyone else.
That's working.
Thanks. So my question is about language. You talked about geography and people coming from villages and not even necessarily speaking English. So we're going to speak about this at 5:30, so I hope you stick around and see our little presentation. But in the industry here that's represented very well on stage, what do you gentlemen think about actually the lyric translations that are coming online on Spotify, on Deezer, on Apple, Amazon, in the near future, and how's that going to change things for India so that everybody in the world can understand songs that are sung in your languages?
Funny that you mentioned that, because literally the project that I'm working on yesterday was a Hindi lyric translation of a track we released last week, right? And the whole idea around translation in a simple word is just to kind of resonate again with a fan base that's not sitting in your core country, for them to understand what the actual meaning of this is in that sense. But if you look at India today, I think, again, everyone here would have a very different example. I've mostly worked with a lot of international artists, and that has been one of the biggest barriers, that the tune or the sound or the trend will stick, but not actually the meaning of that track will stick to your audience, right? So that's why they will not carry it to their heart and to a long time. They will move on to the other trend or the other sound that kind of sticks in that same genre. And translation over there and it wonders if you can work with a local artist or a local musician to create a specific version for that country, really works for you in that sense.
Or a collaboration like what King did with Jonas.
I mean, actually, Disney used to do this a lot. High School Musical has an entire soundtrack in Hindi as well, and it's all on the same melody. It even uses parts of the same hook. But I don't know if they do that anymore because English is a lot more accessible. But when we were kids, then Disney used to translate everything. But now BTS is a great example. All of the K-pop industry is a great example. They always have English subtitles because they know that their most monetized fan bases are actually outside of Korea. So.
Yeah, and weirdly, like when we did like we did a K-pop festival recently, and we had fans show up like from all over the country. We didn't know there was a market like that existed, and they were singing in Korean. They didn't even know it.
Hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
We'll take a couple of more.
Can I go first?
Can you guys pass the mic?
Yeah, just because I have the mic, can I go? Yep. Sorry. So my question is specifically around managing the economic risk of organizing an event as a manager or event organizer, especially at the start of an artist career where you're not sure how many people are going to turn up, and there are a lot of hidden costs involved in doing an event. But it might feel essential as a marketing tool or for growing your community. So how do you manage that financial risk involved?
I mean, I'll talk from a live perspective, and you guys can obviously feed in from an artist management perspective. From a live perspective, it doesn't matter whether you're starting off or whether you're selling like 1,000 tickets or whatever. But when you're starting off, you need to believe in your art. You need to approach promoters, and send them your music, send them your press kits. It might just happen that they will love the music more than and they have an upcoming event or upcoming festival that is happening. Literally from a monetization and from a revenue perspective, I mean, because the financial risk is on promoters like us, we have different models of working with different artists, especially artists that are starting out, where we also look at revenue share models where the artist also has skin in the game, to sell those many number of tickets. And what we do as Skillbox and as a promoter is we help artists reach those stages. We will pay. We basically do a revenue share model where we will take care of your initial expenses when it comes to travel and your tech rider and things like that, and that will be a recoupable model from the sale. So the more number of tickets you sell, the more money you make. So like that is how starting artists. And I would like encourage everyone to send out your press kits, whether you have 500 fans or you have 5,000 followers. Doesn't matter. There will be somebody over there who's listening to the music who will want to program an artist like you if they find a right fit.
Thank you.
Do you want to take it up? Because they really want us to go off stage. So we're happy to come down and talk to everyone.
We can take it off.
Yeah.
It's like a red sign saying time's up.
Yeah, I think there's a red sign saying time's up, but yeah, you've got the mic. So.
Yeah. So thank you for the panel. It's really interesting. So I'm Rumpa from IPRS. So what I understood that these communities hold great power in like shaping the careers of artists. So in India, can these communities also drive compliance in music? Because the artists they are a fan of tend to lose a lot of monies because a lot of time their music is played, but they don't get the returns from, like in terms of royalties. So I believe these communities can also bring about a very positive change in terms of licensing and royalties for the artists. What's your view on that?
Again, keeping it short and taking an example from the techno community over here. That's a genre of music that is kind of played across the clubs, right? And that is true for, I mean, I think what you believe is kind of the music is being played by clubs or institutions that have not taken the IPRS or PPL license to do that. There's this beautiful app that's been launched by an Indian producer called A Slice. The whole idea of that A Slice is basically it's like Shazam. So it encourages fans and people attending events to kind of give access to the microphone when you're at the event. And obviously there are perks of kind of using the app, like free tickets or kind of different perks related to the artist. What it does is it kind of records and recognizes the tracks that are playing in that club. And you have to just go and say that, hey, I was an antisocial on so-and-so night, I was attending a Karan Kanchan event. And it will automatically list the 20 tracks that played in that night. Kind of taking that and they're working, it's a two-way economy. They're working with the fans, they're working with the artists. And the artist will agree, okay, these are the 20 tracks that played. This is I am ready to give up 5% of my fee into kind of giving it back to the artist. So A Slice then kind of determines, it's a complicated process, yes. yet, but artists in Germany like Richie Houghton is using it, and it's been developed by Arjun Wagle, if you guys know who he is. He's developed that thing, and the whole idea is to just give back to the artists and such marginal, sort of genres that are not played as wide and big like pop and indie music.
Yeah.
So that is where the fans come into like picture to help you kind of, sort of
Thank you,
contribute.
thank you,
True.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Sarthak. Thank you, all the panelists. Let's give a big round of applause to them, ladies and gentlemen.